Spoiler warning. The following discussion will contain spoilers. We recommend checking out the movie first, then coming back to hang with us. But if you don't care about that, glad to have you here.
Jason.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Real Review. My name is Kevin.
And I'm John.
And we are the Real Movie Guys. Welcome to Real Terror Month, a series where we discuss the movies that will send chills down your spine. On today's episode, we're going to be taking a look at The Addams Family. Con artists plan to fleece an eccentric family using an accomplice who claims to be their long-lost uncle. John, what are your... what's the word I'm looking for? What is your history with the Addams Family? Now, were you fluent? Did you watch the original TV show that used to be on TV?
I've seen it before, yes.
Yeah, I think we've seen. I wouldn't say we religiously watched it, but
I
watched episodes. Yeah,
I wouldn't say I'm too familiar with it. Like, I'm more familiar with this movie than I am with the TV show.
Right. So, what is your history with this movie? Give me a little insight into what you know about this movie.
I mean, I've seen this movie so many times I almost can't count. Okay. It's one of those movies that I feel like a movie that I watch every single October, always, because it's always one of those great movies that I like.
Right, I feel like it is a Halloween staple. If anything is anything it's funny because it's not a Halloween movie. You can even argue the second one's maybe more of a Thanksgiving movie, technically. But technically, again, the first one though, not a Halloween movie, but why does this movie work? On every level, I feel like this movie works. It's a great family dark comedy. It's got everything that it's like a magnet, this movie, for whatever reason. And I think a lot of it, in my opinion, just has to do with the casting.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say the main reason I think that this movie altogether works out so well is because the casting is done so good, and the people that play each character in the movie play it so well that it's so believable, and you can almost think about oh yeah, I can see this happening.
Right. So let's go over some of the cast then. We have Angelica Houston playing Morticia Addams. Interesting enough, I looked up. Another thing I like is actually the style of this movie, and for her, they actually had to use strings to pull up her eyes to give her that interesting slant thing that she has going on with her eyes. It was like a makeup effect they actually had to use for her, because apparently she doesn't look like they wanted to make her as close to the original Morticia as possible, so that was their solution to getting around that. But she knocks it out of the park. She's very seductive. Everything she says is very seductive and dark.
Oh yeah, she's awesome.
Right, and then not even that, her amazing chemistry is second to none with my man, Raul Julia. M. Bison from Street Fighter plays Mr. Gomez Addams, and man, that man, if you want to find a man that you should emulate, Gomez Addams is that man. He's got the suave, he's got the attitude, he's just got the presence. Every time he's on the screen, I love seeing the energy he brings to this movie.
I also love his style, too. Some of the clothes that he wears in this movie, some of the outfits are so awesome.
Like I said, just his interactions with everyone. He acts as a great father, even though they're weirdly dark and terrible. Everything is still positive, right? Everything's still loving and caring, even though it's this terrible thing that they're doing, whether it's trying to kill the other or whatever, or talking about some dark time that they had. Again, the chemistry is just fantastic with all these people.
Also, the character Wednesday, she plays this so well that it's an amazing part to this movie.
Wednesday's fun, right? Wednesday and Pugsley Addams are just they're fun characters. Christina Ricci, I think, brings a little more than her brother, played by Jimmy Workman. Christina Ricci, this was her early acting time. We got to see her come out as a character. See how she's the oldest Addams child. She's the darkest, arguably, of the two. Maybe has a more evil head on her shoulders, which is interesting. Christina Ricci definitely brings that to life in that character, especially every time she tries to kill Pugsley. I absolutely love it. One of my favorite scenes is actually the electric chair scene, where she lures him into the electric chair and is what's this gonna do? He's do you want to meet God? I just think that's fantastic.
It's the kind of weird family that they are too.
Right, and just weird, they have a disfigured hand called Thing, and it's never explained, never given why they have that, why he's there, or what he really does. He's kind of like he's kind of like the caretaker slash assistant.
Yeah.
He's just kind of there.
Between
Again,
him and Lurch.
yeah, and they're never explained, never given backstory, but you don't really care. One of the interesting things I found myself trying to find was like, where the Addams get their money from? Why are they so rich? And I actually went into it. I went down like a rabbit hole almost to try and find out. Apparently it's just from like investments and inheritance from the past, but part of the magic I think is not knowing why they're so rich.
Yeah.
Like, how do these crazy people get all this money? And they're just these terribly dark humans. And again, one of the best things or before we even get into that, then we have my favorite actor of all time. He's up there. Mr. Christopher Lloyd as Uncle Fester Addams. Doc Brown himself plays an interesting character for him. I mean, Christopher Lloyd always plays outlandish characters from many, many of the roles he's in. Again, my most favorite being Back to the Future. But Fester is on another level. Fester, you can even argue, maybe is the most popular character from the Addams Family. One of the most recognizable. Especially he had his own video game, Fester's Quest. They have that arcade machine that used to be at all the boardwalks by us here in New Jersey, where you'd squeeze the electric thing. It was like the electric tester. We had the light bulb in his mouth, and you have to test it to see if you get a shock, how long he can hold on. If anything, Christopher Lloyd definitely knocks it out of the park with him.
I also love Christopher Lloyd's chemistry too with Gomez. They seem like they work well, very very well together.
One of the things, like I was saying, my main goal is I want to try and find what is the appeal of the Addams Family. Like, why is it so interesting? I think, like I said, a lot of it has to do with the cast. Another thing has to do with just the dark humor. I think there's a side to everybody that wishes they could be like the Addams Family, could just let the dark side loose and have a good time. And that's what the Addams Family is. They're carefree, they're dark, they let these inner ambitions out without having a penalty or anything like that. But they're not mean, right? They're not. It's a strange concept. It's kind of hard to grasp. I feel like it's hard to describe to someone. If you had to describe to someone like what the Addams Family is, they're just dark, twisted people that have a good time, but no one dies, no one gets killed. You know what I mean? It's a very weird, somewhat deranged concept. And again, they're very iconic characters, for being as old as they are. Even more recently, it's not something we're covering, but they were recently remade into a animated film, which I think was mildly popular. It's actually getting a sequel. It's just interesting to see these characters have some kind of longevity to them in media. They've been around, on TV. They had that original TV series. They were also a comic strip before that, I believe, in the New Yorker. Even later on, many, many animated adaptations. There's quite a few. I was very surprised to find out. They were also a Broadway musical. Very strange to see this deranged family is so popular in media.
Well, also the music in it too is iconic. Just the beginning and everything.
Which isn't
I feel
in it that much.
That draws people
right. It's only in it the one time. I thought the famous Addams Family song with the snapping, I thought that was going to be more in the movie. It's in it once. Pretty short too, and that's it. You never hear it again.
Yeah,
I was actually more surprised by that, having rewatched this. I felt like I faintly remembered it being in there more often, but not the case. It's actually not in it at all, really. Another thing I like the overall art style. It's very Tim Burton-esque. It's not Tim Burton, because you would know if it was Tim Burton right off the bat. I mean, I can understand someone being mistaken thinking it is. I feel like it's like Diet Tim Burton, this movie. That's not an insult to the movie. I feel like that's just the style it's going for. Like, everything in the Addams world, from the colors, anything that's not passion is like a black, white, dark color. Anything passionate, though, they use a lot of brights. They use Gomez. He'll have a piece of clothing that's a bright color out of nowhere. Or Morticia, she has her red lipstick is luscious and speaks to people. Again, it's interesting how they use those color symbols to show the passion within people, to get across emotion by using an overall very muted color palette, and then coming out with these strong colors occasionally just to express what they're trying to feel. And the effects are also very good in this movie too. I mean, there are some interesting scenes with Thing, the hand that crawls around. You can definitely tell it's green screen at times. It comes through pretty strong, where you could actually, I think I saw the screen slightly pull at one point, so I saw a line to where the green screen matched. It's almost like the green screen behind me. But no, I guess that's a little too insulting. But overall, very good. I
thought you were in the woods.
Yeah, I know, right? That's what I thought. Ooh, I'm in the woods. I'm lost. Help. Send help. again, the makeup, just fantastic work. Cousin It, very iconic character. Just hair and doesn't talk, just goes. The suavest character in the movie, some would argue. Even more suave than Gomez.
He gets the ladies.
Apparently. But again, excellent movie overall. But there are a couple things that I don't know if they hold it back, but they do impact the movie slightly. The one thing I really want to bring up, the plot of this movie didn't really do it for me. The plot essentially is Fester's missing, right? No one knows what happened to Uncle Fester, which is Gomez's brother. So Christopher Lloyd plays Gordon, who Gordon coincidentally looks like Uncle Fester. So the Addams investor and Gordon's mother come up with a plan to try and smuggle all the money out from the Addams, to take all their money away, to have Gordon pretend to be Fester, gain the inheritance, and take all the money. It's kind of a stupid plot. I mean, for me, I don't think the main focus of this movie is its plot. I don't know if you would agree or not. The plot is more or less there. It's like a loose, like shoestring framework to just keep the events rolling, because the real show is just the family and their interactions with each other and society, you know, the little bits of society that we get. But I think the plot really didn't do much for me. It didn't really add anything extra to the story.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree, but the
not
plot
that it's a
didn't
bad
really...
thing. I don't want to come off like I'm, you know, it's not a bad thing, but again, the plot isn't as dire or as important as I think it's trying to be at times, where it's like, oh no, what's Fester gonna do? But that's not really what we're here for, right? We're here for, it's the Addams Family show. We're here for the family, not this weird subplot with Fester. Again, I feel like what I felt like when I was talking to my wife and we were talking about this movie after watching it, I felt like it was an extended episode of the show. I could see that being what this is. I don't know if it necessarily needed like a full, like this was the theatrical choice as far as plot that you picked for a movie. This felt more of like a show, like, oh, I don't know where Fester is, and he lost his memory. Oh, he's back home now. And then he ends up being the real Uncle Fester the whole time. It felt like just a silly plot. But again, I guess the Addams Family concept is kind of silly, so I guess it matches that in that regard. So I think we're at that point where we're going to give our final scores. I'm going to give the Addams Family a B+. Overall, very enjoyable film. Highly recommend it. I don't think it's too dark for kids. You know, some might argue maybe some of the jokes, a lot of the jokes are going to go over their heads, especially the younger kids watching it. So I do encourage this as a family film. Again, don't be here for the plot. The plot's really not anything special. This is a great adaptation. We don't get many of those nowadays, or even in the 90s. If you look at a lot of the shows, I think like Dudley Do-Right was one. Like, who would adapt that cartoon? Or Rocky and Bullwinkle. There were some really weird adaptations in the time period, but this movie stood out for me. It was very well executed. Like I said, the plot, something to be desired, but overall, some amazing performances and standout moments. Comes highly recommended. John, where do you stand with this movie?
I give this movie an A. I feel like it just had everything that you could really want in like a really good Halloween movie. Also kind of like just gives you, like, after watching the movie so many times, you would think like it would wear off, but each time I watch it, it's still a good movie to me, and I still find it interesting and entertaining.
It's definitely a classic. I would consider this on my Halloween to watch shelf for sure. A movie I always find myself going back to. John, where can the people find us at home?
You can find us on YouTube. We want you to like our channel, subscribe to it, leave in the comments whether you like this movie, or maybe you like the one that comes after it better, or also tell us what are some of the must-watches of your Halloween movies that you like. You can also do that on Twitter. You can find us on Twitter at the Real Movie Guy on Twitter. You can tell us there too. You can also find us on many podcasting platforms such as...
Yes, for your listening pleasure, we are also available in podcast form at iTunes, Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcast, Overcast, Breaker, Radio Public, and Pocket Casts. Be sure to give us a listen at any of those fine places. If you already are right now, hey, greatly appreciate it. Just search Real Movie Guys. We should pop right up. Thank you all so much for joining us for this episode of The Real Review. My name's Kevin. This guy over here, he's John. We are The Real Movie Guys. Real guys, real movies, real thoughts. And don't worry, there are more scares to come as Real Terror Month continues.